ought we to be doing? And we're certainly doing that. And there are, the Taubman Institute, for example, has a scientific advisory board to try to say what areas ought we to look at. Other questions? Some of you may be thinking that you have a question, but it would be embarrassing to ask it, or it wouldn't be politically correct. We don't care. If you have a question, you ought to ask it.
I'm not embarrassed very easily, so. You talked about you've been waiting 9 months for the regulations that you need
Yeah.
issued. Is that from DCH that you're waiting? And are you aware of how that process is going and how much more time do you think you're going to have to wait? And
Yes.
could you tell us a little bit about the process, that if you know what?
So Senator Brady's question is, Proposition 2 passed last year. We have said that we are not doing embryonic stem cell research at the moment because we have been waiting 9 months for approvals and regulatory approvals. And can we talk for derivation, right? And derivation research, exactly right. And can we talk a little bit more about that? We did not want to start derivation research, which would damage or destroy an embryo, until the NIH guidelines came out. They just came out in July of this year. And so that was one big regulatory part. The next part was to take those guidelines, to apply them to our escrow committee, and to make sure that we are doing everything right. The last thing we want to do is say to the Michigan public that voted for Prop 2, you know what, we did some wild and crazy things. That just doesn't make any sense to us. So for the derivation research that would damage or destroy an embryo, we want to take our time and make sure that everything is right. Now, what do I mean by everything? Well, there needs to be a consent form for people who are donating. That consent form has to be reviewed by the Institutional Review Board and by the escrow committee. We couldn't write the consent form until we saw the federal guidelines July 7. So after July 7, we could tailor the consent form to make sure that it met all the requirements, both in the Institute of Medicine book and in the NIH guidelines. So we wrote a consent form. We submitted it to the IRB. The IRB looked at it, made some suggestions for improvements. Gary Smith and I went last Thursday to the IRB, and they finally approved the consent form. They had questions ranging from readability to comprehensiveness to a question that they asked us last week, which was, if you're going to be doing this research at the university, might you want to have special locks on the doors so that people don't try to come in and disrupt your lab? So it's that kind of granular detail that we had to go through. And they were thinking of, you know, what happened to labs at other places that did research on animals, where people came in and tried to destroy the lab. So they wanted it to be so clear. They wanted to be sure that the telephone numbers were in place. They wanted to be sure that there were barcodes and car codes on the doors so that unauthorized people couldn't get in before they would let the research start. It is 1 o'clock. We don't want to keep you after the time that we said we would end. We are happy to stay here for a couple more minutes if people have other questions, and we just want to thank you for your time and your interest.
Well, I just, again, thank you, our esteemed speakers today, for coming. And on behalf of the Wolverine Caucus and the Michigan Alumni Association, for you taking the time to come here today and share all of this information. We have these beautiful 14-karat gold Wolverine Caucus pins. So lapel pins, we hope that you will enjoy them. And again, thank you, and we appreciate that Senator Liz Brader and Senator Gilda Jacobs had the opportunity to join us today, and all of you from the legislative offices, and I see Jerome Marks here from Governor Granholm's office. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to provide these substantive forums and that you join us, and all together we learn about these very important topics. So if you'd like to have an additional guideline here to take with you from our speakers today. And certainly if you have questions in the future that you'd like to pose to either of our speakers, I'm sure they'd be more than happy to be of assistance. And we look forward to seeing you again for the Wolverine Caucus on January 13th, 2010, when we will talk about the U.S. Census, the Decennial Census 2010. So with that, have a very pleasant afternoon, and thank you again for joining us. Which is not all that teacher is, but it's about people who are wealthy enough to have basically being and they're put in classes, the whole county
Just want to thank you and for your work that you're doing.
Thanks, Senator.
Sorry I
You
was
too.
late, but I have to go, we are in session today, so, and we're back. I have to go back to committee to vote against the DEP budget again. But, it's exciting. Are you guys going to be using the science labs, basically?
The university's deciding now how to fill it. And the shorter answer is we don't know who's going. I don't know who's going in there. Probably people at levels above mine do.
Oh, I was just curious about that.
And so are we.
Yeah. So that question I asked, is not, we need to find out
The approvals to begin the research.
yeah. You said there was already 9 months delay.
Yeah, mostly that's institutional. I mean,
University?
correct. Correct.
But isn't there some things DCH has to do to interpret to allow you to start?
To my knowledge, there's no interpretation of proposal 2 needed. I'm not aware of that if there
I
is.
thought I heard something about that, but.
To the best of my knowledge, we have the green light to begin once the institutional progress is in
Glad to
place.
hear
Yeah,
that. I'm glad you don't have to wait around for us.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Good luck with the committee.
Have a good afternoon, Senator.
We worked with Care Michigan on Proposal 2.
Awesome group. The PR group.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were all the earned media talkers, so.
Yeah, I was with, I don't think you were there. Rose Point.
No, I was definitely not. Yeah. So I wasn't when Dr. Morrison gave his proposal to me back in September. So it's really interesting to be able to hear all the implications.
Yeah. Feels good to be part of it.
Yeah. So I don't know. So we're still very interested. There's rumblings of legislation.
Well, it has been.
Yeah. So we wanted to come and see the discussion and how that goes.
Yeah, I was interested in how close it was too.
Yeah. So you guys did a great job.
Sometimes it's nice to come with Ed, the lawyer. So, we probably, since the citizens group